that need and tried to reach out to existing transport companies to fill the gap, but they were not forthcoming. And so I decided to go into it myself. That is the main essence of this company, to connect Taraba State to other parts of the country, especially Abuja and Yola, comfortably for executive travelers.
We offer executive services to both individuals and group of people. The kind of services we render depends on the needs in which our customers wishes for us to offer. Either wedding, conferences, ambulance services or car hire services, we ensure that we give you the very best of service.
We offer shuttle services. We started with Jalingo Yola. And right now, as I'm talking to you, we are already looking out for a terminal in Abuja, because Abuja route is actually the ultimate. That was the motivation behind the establishment of the company, so that travels between Abuja and Jalingo can be done comfortably. So we are trusting God that by April, before the end of April, we will start the Abuja route. We are already looking out for a terminal. And so that is the basic thing. And we go into car hire services too. You can hire our Sienna buses, you can hire our Hummer buses, you can also hire our ambulances. So we have all these types of vehicles in place. And I want to say here, what I mean by travel in comfort is that if you are traveling with our Sienna bus, for example, we don't take more than 5 passengers on our shuttle trips. But if you hire it, we allow you to take up to 6 passengers. In other words, 3 people can sit at the back, 2 at the center and 1 in front. But if it is through our shuttle services, it's only 5.
We ensure we take off on time and also arrive on time, most especially for our airport passengers that will love.
Good afternoon and welcome to the World News on Psalm TV, the pulse of the nation. I am Abraham Mane Joda and we're bringing you the latest in-depth news about the world. Now let us go on a short commercial break, and when we come back, World News continues. Well, welcome back to the World News on Psalm TV. We're bringing you the latest in-depth coverage of global events straight from the heart of the story. So stay informed, stay ahead with us on Psalm TV World News. You can follow us on Facebook at Psalm TV and on YouTube at Psalm TV Live. Now here are the major headlines. Malaysian Prime Minister to meet Myanmar junta chief over quick relief. Gabon's leader Nguema wins presidential election. Saudi Arabia deports over 11,700 in crackdown residency and labor laws. Now the news in full. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim will meet Myanmar's junta leader Senior General Min Aung Hlaing in Bangkok on Thursday to discuss extending a ceasefire between the military government and the rebel groups. This move aims to facilitate earthquake relief efforts in Myanmar, which was hit by a devastating quake last month that killed thousands and caused significant damage. Anwar, as the chair of the regional ASEAN bloc, emphasized that the meeting is held on humanitarian grounds. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations have been pushing for a 5-point peace plan to halt the fighting in Myanmar, which has been in turmoil since the military's overthrow of an elected civilian government in 2021. Although the junta and rebel groups have announced unilateral ceasefires to support quick relief, they have accused each other of violating the agreements. Anwar will use the meeting to urge Min Aung Hlaing to extend the ceasefire, allowing for more effective humanitarian assistance. Malaysia will continue to provide humanitarian aid to Myanmar through a temporary field hospital run by the Malaysian Armed Forces. Anwar's diplomatic efforts highlight the region's commitment to providing assistance despite the challenges posed by Myanmar's complex political landscape. The meeting marks a rare diplomatic engagement for Min Aung Hlaing, who has been largely shown internationally since his 2021 coup. Brice Oligui Nguema, who led a coup in Gabon in August 2023, has won the presidential election with 90.35% of votes cast. According to the provisional results announced by the country's interior minister, this victory cements Nguema's grip on power 19 months after the coup ended over half a century of rule by the Bongo family. Nguema's most prominent opponent, Alain-Claude Billy by Inze, finished with 3.02% of the total votes. The electoral outcome is expected to impact Gabon's economic growth, which has been constrained by prolonged political uncertainty and fears of extended military rule. Gabon's economy grew by 2.9% in 2024, driven by infrastructure projects and increased production of commodities such as oil, manganese, and timber. A democratically elected government with a clear mandate could engage with multilateral partners to pursue fiscal reforms and debt restructuring, essential for macroeconomic stability. Gabon has $3 billion outstanding in international bonds. Nguema's election win gives him a 7-year term, renewable once under a constitution approved last November. Despite promising a break from the Bongo era, Nguema has ties to the whole government as a former aide-de-camp to Ali Bongo's father, Omar Bongo, who served as president for over 40 years. Nguema campaigned on diversifying the oil-reliant economy and promoting agriculture, industry, and tourism in a country where a third of the population live in poverty. And in a related development, Gabon's transitional leader and junta chief Brice Oligui Nguema has thanked his supporters after winning the presidential election with a resounding 90.35% of the votes. According to the provisional results released by the Ministry of Interior, Nguema's victory solidifies his position as head of state under Gabon's newly proclaimed Fifth Republic. Speaking to a jubilant crowd, Nguema called for unity and a renewed focus on national development, emphasizing that there is no happiness without effort. He urged supporters to be builders of peace and justice, and encourage them to resume their professional activities. Starting tomorrow is a working day. We must now turn the page on the presidential election. Nguema's administration faces significant economic challenges, with Gabon carrying $3 billion in international bonds and struggling with political instability. Despite these challenges, the country saw modest economic growth in 2024, with a 2.9% increase driven by infrastructure expansion and stronger output in oil, manganese, and timber. Restoring democratic legitimacy is key to reviving investor confidence and initiating necessary economic reforms. The Rapid Support Forces has claimed control of the Zamzam camp in North Darfur, a major displacement camp hosting around 700,000 people fleeing Sudan's war. The camp, along with nearby Abu Shok, has been under intense fighting for 4 days, resulting in hundreds of deaths and injuries. Humanitarian groups condemned the assault, citing widespread destruction of shelters, markets, and healthcare facilities, and accused the RSF of targeting vulnerable civilians, including women, children, and the elderly. Tens of thousands of camp residents have fled to the city of Al-Fashir on foot, overwhelming local shelters and leaving many without access to basic necessities like food, water, and medicine. The Sudan Liberation Army SLA has called for urgent military support from Sudan's armed forces to protect approximately 1.5 million people in Al-Fashir. The SLA denounces the RSF action, while the RSF claims it has organized voluntary evacuations and welcomes humanitarian agencies to respond to the crisis. The United Nations has condemned the attack on Zamzam camp, describing it as a deadly escalation against displaced people and aid workers. The RSF has denied targeting civilians, instead accusing its rivals of orchestrating a media campaign to falsely incriminate it. As the conflict continues, millions remain displaced, and regions like Darfur face devastation, with the RSF fighting to maintain its stronghold amid army advances in Khartoum. Saudi Arabia has deported more than 11,700 individuals following a week-long crackdown on residency, labor, and border security violations. The Ministry of Interior announced the deportation, which took place from October 17 to October 23, ahead of the 2025 Hajj season. During the operation, authorities apprehended 20,896 violators, including 11,930 residency law violators, 5,649 border security regulations offenders, and 3,317 individuals involved in labor-related offenses. Among those arrested, 1,374 individuals were caught attempting to cross into the kingdom illegally, with the majority being Ethiopian nationals, 55%, and Yemenis, 43%. The Ministry of Interior warned that anyone facilitating illegal entry, including providing transportation or shelter, could face severe penalties, including up to 15 years in prison. Fines up to 1 million Saudi Arabian rands, approximately $266,000, confiscation of vehicles or properties used in the offense. A spokesman from the Ministry of Interior emphasized the government's commitment to enforcing laws to maintain national security and protect the labor market. This crackdown is part of Saudi Arabia's efforts to regulate its immigration policies and enforce its law aligned with Vision 2030 economic reform goals. British MP Wera Woodhouse, a member of the Liberal Democratic Party, has been denied entry to Hong Kong, sparking diplomatic tension between London and Beijing. Woodhouse, who was visiting to see her newborn grandson and son, was stopped by immigration officials and escorted to the departure gate without explanation. Her passport was confiscated during the hours-long detention at the airport. Foreign Secretary David Lammy expressed deep concern over the incident, stating that it is unacceptable for an MP to be denied entry for expressing her views as a parliamentarian. We will urgently raise this with the authorities in Hong Kong and Beijing to demand an explanation, Lammy said. Also denies marks the first time a British MP has been refused entry to Hong Kong since Beijing regained control in 1997. Woodhouse has previously criticized China's ruling Communist Party for restricting civil liberties in Hong Kong and human rights abuses in Xinjiang and Tibet. This incident comes amid ongoing political transformation in Hong Kong, with the city's Democratic Party discussing possible dissolution following Beijing's national security crackdown. Woodhouse is the third British lawmaker recently denied entry to a foreign country. 2 Labour Party MPs were blocked from entering Israel, allegedly for planning to provoke anti-Israel activities. The Hong Kong government has not yet commented on Woodhouse's denial. The Kremlin has cautioned that instant results should not be expected in ongoing peace talks aimed at ending the Ukraine war, despite the demands from the U.S. President Donald Trump for progress. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov stated that contacts with Trump teams are moving ahead well, but the damage done to bilateral relations under Trump's predecessor Joe Biden makes immediate results unrealistic. Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff held talks with President Vladimir Putin in St. Petersburg, discussing potential peace deals for Ukraine. Trump urged Russia to get moving on the peace process, saying discussions may be going well, but there's a point at which you just have to either put up or shut up. Peskov mentioned that contacts are underway at multiple levels, including foreign ministry, intelligence agencies, and Putin's investment envoy, Kirill Dmitriev. The Kremlin emphasized that restoring relations requires serious and painstaking work, suggesting a potential meeting between Putin and Trump requires more work, requires more time. European leaders and Ukraine view Russia's 2022 invasion as an imperial-style land grab, demanding Russia's defeat on the battleground. Putin frames the war as part of a battle with a decline in West, citing NATO's expansion as an encroachment on Moscow's sphere of influence. Zimbabwe has begun compensating white farmers who lost their land over 2 decades ago, paying out $3.1 million to the first group of farmers. This payment is part of a larger $3.5 billion deal made in 2020 to compensate more than 4,000 farmers whose farms were seized by the government around the year 2000 under Robert Mugabe's land reform plan. The land reform plan aimed to redistribute land to black Zimbabweans, but largely benefited individuals close to the government. The seizure led to a decline in food production, export, and resulted in extreme inflation, particularly in 2008. This compensation payment is a step towards resolving this country's debt issues and re-engaging with the international financial system. Zimbabwe Finance Minister Mthuli Ncube affirmed the government's commitment to making these payments, which are crucial for securing financial assistance from the World Bank and International Monetary Fund after a 20-year hiatus. The remaining compensation will be paid in US dollar bonds with a 2% interest rate. U.S. President Donald Trump has stated that he will follow a Supreme Court order regarding a Salvadoran man deported from the United States in error. The Supreme Court directed the Trump administration to facilitate the return of Kilmer Abrego Garcia to the U.S. after acknowledging his deportation to El Salvador was a mistake. Garcia's deportation sparked controversy, prompting the Supreme Court to intervene and instruct the government to bring him back to the U.S. Trump's response came during a press briefing on board Air Force One, where emphasizing his respect for the Supreme Court's decisions. I respect the Supreme Court, Trump told reporters. If the Supreme Court said bring somebody back, I would do that. This development highlights the ongoing debate surrounding immigration policies and the role of the judiciary in shaping their enforcement. Syrian President Ahmad al-Shara met with United Arab Emirates President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan in Abu Dhabi, marking his second visit into a Gulf state as leader. This meeting aims to reassure foreign partners of Syria's commitment to creating an inclusive political system under its new Islamist leadership. Shara was accompanied by Foreign Minister Assad al-Shabani and the two leaders discussed issues of mutual interest. Shara's visit to the UAE follows his trip to Saudi Arabia in February, where he sought to strengthen ties with Arab leaders after the fall of President Bashar al-Assad. The UAE has been a vocal opponent of Islamist group, raising questions about the future of bilateral relations. Western countries are closely watching Syria's leadership to ensure they maintain order and prevent the resurgence of extremist groups like Islamic State or Al-Qaeda. Syria's economy is in dire need of revival after 14 years of civil war, which led to widespread sanctions. The new leadership efforts to engage with international partners may pave the way for potential sanctions and relief and economic assistance, crucial for rebuilding the war-torn country. Pope Francis appeared in St. Peter's Square on Palm Sunday, greeting crowds from his wheelchair as he continues his recovery from double pneumonia. Happy Palm Sunday, happy Holy Week, the 88-year-old Pope said before returning inside the Vatican. During his brief appearance, he stopped to talk with the faithful, including a group of nuns. This marked another public appearance for Pope Francis since his discharge from the hospital in March 23 after a 5-week stay for treatment of a lung infection. Unlike his previous appearance last Sunday, he was not receiving oxygen via a small hose under his nose. His medical team had urged him to take 2 months of rest, but he has made several unannounced appearances in the past week. It's still unclear how much Pope Francis will participate in the forthcoming Holy Week services and events. The Pope's health has been closely monitored by the public and the Catholic Church, given his age and recent health issues. Algeria has strongly protested France's detention of an Algerian consular agent, accusing France of attempting to disrupt the rival of bilateral relations between the two countries. The consular agent was detained as part of a judicial investigation into the alleged kidnapping of Amir Bokas, an Algerian national and opponent of the Algerian regime, who Francis was abducted in April 2024. Algeria's foreign ministry described the detention as unacceptable and unjustified and warned that it would severely damage Algerian-French relations. The ministry also summoned French Ambassador Steven Remotet to express a strong protest. Algeria has labeled Bokas a saboteur linked to terrorist group, while Bokas has reportedly been granted political asylum in France. This incident comes amid a complex history of strained ties between Paris and Algiers, which worsened last July, when French President Emmanuel Macron recognized a plan for autonomy in Western Sahara under Moroccan sovereignty. The diplomatic role now may further strain relationship between the two nations despite recent efforts to improve ties. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot has suggested a return to normalcy after visiting Algiers last week and holding talks with Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune. However, Algeria has vowed consequences for what it sees as a provocative move by France, potentially jeopardizing economy and security interests in its former colony. Thousands of supporters of Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić ruling Serbian Progressive Party gathered in Belgrade on Saturday in a show of strength ahead of upcoming elections. The rally, attended by people from towns in Serbia, Kosovo, and Bosnia, aimed to promote Vučić policies and counter months of anti-corruption protests that threaten his grip on power. The event comes after months of anti-government rallies sparked by a railway station roof collapse that killed 16 people, triggering accusations of widespread corruption and negligence. Anti-government protesters clashed with Vučić supporters in Novi Pazar and Belgrade, with police intervening to prevent further escalation. Vučić addressed his supporters saying the colored revolution is over, implying that the opposition's effort will come to nothing. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban expressed solidarity with Serbian patriots via video link, saying Serbian patriots can count on Hungarian patriots. The rally marked deep division within Serbia, with Vučić facing growing opposition from students, teachers, and farmers. Despite this, Vučić remained a dominant force in Serbian politics, having held power for 12 years as Prime Minister or President. That's all for the world news, but before we go, here's a recap of the major stories. Malaysian Prime Minister to meet Myanmar junta chief over quick relief. Gabon's leader Nguema wins presidential election. Saudi Arabia deports over 11,700 in crackdown residency and labor laws. Thanks for watching Some TV World News. Join us again for more in-depth coverage of global events. Follow us on Facebook.